The oil still comes up, every day. From the Arizona. They say it's her bleeding. 11 years later, and she's still bleeding into the harbor. I was 20 years old on December 7th, 1941. Seaman First Class assigned to the USS Vestal, a repair ship moored alongside the Arizona at Ford Island. We'd pulled in 2 days earlier after some routine maintenance work. Sunday morning was supposed to be easy, sleep in a little, write some letters home, maybe hit the beach later. I grew up in Sacramento, joined the Navy in 1939 because I wanted to see the world, and because jobs were still hard to come by back then. The Depression wasn't really over, no matter what the papers said. My old man worked at the rail yard when he could get shifts. My mother took in sewing. When the recruiter came through town talking about 3 square meals and steady pay, I signed up the same day. Boot camp at San Diego. Then they assigned me to the Vestal. She wasn't glamorous, repair ships never are, but I liked the work. I was a machinist's mate. Spent my days keeping equipment running, fixing what broke, maintaining what didn't. Good honest work with my hands, the kind of work that made sense. Hawaii was like paradise, that's what we all thought. Warm weather, beautiful water, friendly people. We'd been there since September, moving between Pearl Harbor and the outlying islands. The worst thing we worried about was hangovers and sunburn. Sure, there was talk about Japan, about tensions rising, about their expansion into China and Indochina. But that all seemed far away. Abstract. The Pacific Fleet was the most powerful naval force in the world. We had 9 battleships in Pearl Harbor alone. We were untouchable. That's what we thought anyway. Saturday night, December 6th, some of the boys went into Honolulu. I stayed on board. Wrote a letter to my girl back home, Sally Henderson, worked at the Woolworths on K Street. Told her about the sunshine and the pineapples and how I'd be home for Christmas next year. Told her I was saving up for a ring. Never sent that letter. It burned with everything else. I woke up to the sound of planes. Lots of them. Low and loud, rattling the bulkheads. My first thought was that some flyboy was showboating, buzzing the harbor on a Sunday morning. Somebody was going to catch hell for that. Then I heard the explosions. I was topside in maybe 30 seconds, still pulling on my shirt. The sky was full of aircraft. I remember thinking they looked wrong, the markings weren't right. And they were diving on the ships. That's when I saw the first bomb hit. Not the Arizona, she came later, but one of the smaller ships across the way. The explosion was enormous, bigger than anything I'd ever seen. Water and fire and metal all going up at once. Someone was screaming, "This is not a drill. This is not a drill." Like we needed to be told. The Japanese planes, and we could see them now, see the red circles under their wings. They were everywhere. Dive bombers, torpedo planes, fighters strafing the decks. The noise was incredible. Engines screaming, bombs whistling down, anti-aircraft guns starting to open up, men shouting. I ran to my station. Training takes over, Even when your brain is trying to process the impossible, your body does what it's been drilled to do. I was supposed to help get the Vestal's guns manned and ready. We were moored outboard of the Arizona. That meant we were between her and the main channel. The Arizona was trying to get her guns going too. I could see men running across her decks, could see her anti-aircraft batteries starting to fire. The harbor was chaos. Oil on the water, already burning in places. Ships trying to get underway. Others already listing, already sinking. The water was full of men swimming, drowning, burning. A torpedo plane came in low across the harbor. So low I could see the pilot's face. He released his torpedo at the Arizona. I watched it cut through the water, leaving that white wake. Watched it strike her hull. The explosion lifted the whole ship. I felt it through the Vestal's deck, through my boots, through my bones. But that was nothing compared to what came next. It was 0806 hours. I know because I checked my watch later, saw that it had stopped right then. The crystal was cracked, the hands frozen. A bomb. They said later it was an 800-kilogram armor-piercing bomb converted from a naval shell. It punched through the Arizona's forward deck and detonated in her forward magazine. The explosion. God. There's no way to describe it that makes sense. It wasn't just sound. It was pressure. It was light. It was heat. It was the air itself trying to tear you apart. The entire forward section of the Arizona erupted. A fireball rose hundreds of feet into the air. Pieces of the ship, huge pieces, tons of steel, were thrown like confetti. The forward turrets, each one weighing over 1,000 tons, they just lifted up and crashed back down. The blast wave hit the Vestal and knocked me flat. Men around me were thrown into the air. Some went over the side. Some hit bulkheads and didn't get up. My ears were ringing so loud I couldn't hear anything else. Couldn't hear the screaming. Couldn't hear the secondary explosions. Just this high-pitched whine that wouldn't stop. I pulled myself up, looked at the Arizona. She was dying. You could see it happening, see her breaking apart. The forward section was just gone, obliterated. In its place was a mountain of fire and smoke. The entire forward half of the ship was engulfed. And the men, Jesus Christ, the men. They were jumping off the Arizona, hundreds of them, jumping into water that was on fire. The oil had spread across the harbor and ignited. Men were swimming through flames. You could see them burning as they swam, could see them go under and not come back up. Some tried to climb onto the Vestal. We pulled up everyone we could reach. They were burned, badly burned, skin hanging off in sheets. Some were screaming. Some were silent, in shock, their eyes not seeing anything. One kid couldn't have been more than 18. He grabbed my arm. His face was burned so bad I couldn't make out his features. He asked me, "Where's the Arizona? Where's my ship?" I didn't know what to say. She was right there, 50 feet away, dying in front of us. But I understood what he meant. The Arizona he knew was already gone. He died about 20 minutes later. Never got his name. The Vestal was taking hits too. Bombs, shrapnel from near misses, fires breaking out. Our captain, Captain Casson Young, he was everywhere at once, keeping us fighting, keeping us afloat. We were trying to cast off from the Arizona, trying to get clear before she took us down with her. But it was hard to focus on anything except what was happening to her. To the Arizona. She was settling, going down by the bow. The water was rushing into the holes torn in her hull, pulling her down. But she was burning too. The oil, the ammunition, the fuel, everything was burning. She was sinking into her own funeral pyre. I saw men trapped on the stern, cut off by the fire. Saw them waving. Saw them jumping. Saw some of them make it to the water. Saw most of them not. The mainmast was still standing, tilting as the ship settled. Men were clinging to it. I watched them for as long as I could, hoping someone would get to them. Nobody did. The Japanese kept coming, wave after wave. The first attack lasted maybe 30 minutes, but it felt like hours. Then there was a lull. Maybe 20 minutes of relative quiet, if you can call it quiet when ships are burning and men are dying all around you. We used that time to fight fires on the Vestal, to treat the wounded, to try to make sense of what was happening. The Arizona was still burning. Would burn for days, we'd learn later. The smoke from her rose straight up, a black column you could see for miles, a monument to the dead still trapped inside her. Because that's what she'd become, a tomb. Most of her crew, over 1,000 men, they were still in there. In the forward sections that had been vaporized, in the compartments that had flooded, in the spaces too damaged to escape from. Trapped, drowned, burned, dead. I knew some of them, not well. The Vestal and Arizona crews didn't mix much, but enough to recognize faces, to share cigarettes with, to nod hello to. There was a band that played on the Arizona. They had quarters in the forward section. All of them died in that first explosion. 21 musicians, gone in an instant. The second wave hit around 900. More dive bombers, more destruction. We were shooting back now. Every gun that could fire was firing, but they kept coming. I was helping damage control, running hoses, shoring up bulkheads, pulling wounded men to safety. Your mind goes into this narrow focus, this task, this moment. Don't think about the bigger picture. Don't think about the ships sinking around you. Don't think about the Arizona burning 50 feet away. Just do the next thing, and the next, and the next. We managed to get the Vestal away from the Arizona, beached her on Aia Shoal to keep her from sinking. Captain Young was determined to save the ship, and by God he did. But we had to leave the Arizona behind, leave her burning, leave the men still trapped inside her. By mid-morning, it was over. The Japanese planes withdrew, left us with our burning harbor and our sinking ships and our dead. The water was thick with oil, with debris, with bodies. Small boats were moving through it all, picking up survivors, the ones who could be saved anyway. I stood on the Vestal's deck and looked back at the Arizona. She'd settled on the bottom, but her superstructure was still above water, still burning. The smoke was so thick it blocked out the sun, turned morning into twilight. 2,100 men had been aboard the Arizona that morning. Fewer than 300 survived. 1,177 dead, most of them still inside her. We worked through the night, through the next day, through the days after that, putting out fires, treating wounded, recovering bodies when we could. The Arizona burned for 2.5 days. Even after the fires went out, she was too hot to approach, too damaged to do anything but leave her where she lay. They asked for volunteers to dive down into the wreckage, to try to recover bodies, to try to make the ship safe. I volunteered, felt like I owed it to them, to the men I'd watched die. The water in the harbor was murky, full of oil and silt and things you didn't want to think about. We went down in diving suits, moving through the wreckage by feel as much as sight. Inside, the Arizona was worse than anything I'd imagined. Twisted metal, collapsed decks, everything torn apart by the explosion and the fire and the flooding. And the bodies, so many bodies. Some we could recover, most we couldn't. The ship was too unstable, too dangerous. We did what we could, and then backed out, knowing we were leaving hundreds of men behind. They're still there, still inside her. The Navy decided the Arizona would stay where she fell, a war grave, sacred ground. I helped with the recovery effort for 3 weeks. Then they transferred me to a destroyer heading back to the mainland for repairs. I don't remember much about that voyage. Spent most of it standing at the rail, staring at the water. Sally was waiting for me in San Francisco. I'd sent a telegram, just, "I'm alive." And she'd taken the train out from Sacramento. When I saw her on the dock, I couldn't speak, just held her and tried not to fall apart. She asked about the letter I'd promised to write, the one about the sunshine and the pineapples. I told her I'd lost it. It's 1952 now. The war's been over for 7 years. We won, beat the Japanese, beat the Germans, saved the world, they say. I married Sally in 42 before I shipped out to the South Pacific, fought on a destroyer for the rest of the war, saw plenty more combat, watched plenty more men die. But nothing was like Pearl Harbor. Nothing was like watching the Arizona die. We have 2 kids now, little house in Sacramento, not far from where I grew up. I work at the rail yard like my old man did. The pay's better now. The work's steady. Sally knows not to ask about the war. She tried at first, tried to get me to talk about it. But what would I tell her? How do you explain watching 1,100 men die in 9 minutes? How do you describe the sound of that explosion, the smell of burning oil and burning flesh? The feeling of pulling charred bodies from the water. You can't, so you don't. I still hear it, though, that explosion, feel it in my bones. Sometimes I wake up at 8:06 and I'm back there, back on the Vestal's deck, watching that fireball rise, watching the Arizona break apart. The oil still comes up from her. I read about it in the papers. They call it the tears of the Arizona. 2 or 3 quarts a day seeping up from her ruptured fuel tanks, spreading across the harbor in rainbow sheens, bleeding. She's still bleeding. And I think about the men still inside her, the ones we couldn't recover, the ones who'll stay there forever. Brothers, sons, husbands, friends. 21 musicians who died playing Morning Colors. A kid with a burned face asking where his ship went. 1,000 other men whose names I never knew. People ask me about Pearl Harbor sometimes. Want to know what it was like. Want war stories. Want to hear about heroism and courage and American determination. I don't tell them what they want to hear. I tell them about the water burning, about men swimming through flames, about a ship dying in 9 minutes and taking 1,100 souls with her, about the ones we left behind because we couldn't reach them, about the oil that still seeps up, the tears that still fall. They don't understand. They think it's dramatic. They think I'm exaggerating. After all, we won. We avenged Pearl Harbor 1,000 times over. It's history now, ancient history. But it's not history to me. It's this morning. It's every morning. It's 0806 on December 7th, 1941, and I'm watching the Arizona explode, watching her die, watching her take 1,000 men down into the dark water of Pearl Harbor. I survived Pearl Harbor, survived the whole war, came home and built a life, but part of me never left that harbor. Part of me is still on the Vestal's deck, staring at the Arizona burning, still pulling burned men from the water, still diving down into that wreckage, feeling my way through the dark, past the men I can't save. They gave me a medal. Everyone who was at Pearl Harbor got one, the Pearl Harbor Commemorative Medal. It's in a drawer somewhere with my other service decorations. I don't look at them. What would I see if I did? Proof that I was there? Proof that I survived? I don't need proof. I have the nightmares. I have the date burned into my brain. I have the feeling of that explosion in my bones. I have the memory of the Arizona dying. The Navy built a memorial over her. Plans to dedicate it in a few years. A place where people can stand above the wreck and pay their respects. A place to honor the men still entombed below. I don't know if I'll go. Don't know if I can stand there and look down at her grave, at the place where 1,100 men went into the water and never came home. Sally says I should, says it might help, says it might give me some peace. But I don't want peace. Those men don't have peace. They have oil-dark water and twisted metal and the weight of the ship pressing down on them forever. How can I have peace when they don't? The Arizona still bleeds, still weeps oil into the harbor. 2 quarts a day, every day, and it'll keep bleeding until the last of her fuel is gone. 30 years maybe, 40, maybe longer. Tears for the dead, tears for the ones left behind, tears for all of us who watched her die and couldn't do a damn thing to stop it. December 7th, 1941, 0806 hours. That's when I died too. Not my body, that kept going, kept fighting, kept breathing, but something else. Something that believed the world made sense. That believed we were safe. That believed anything lasted forever. The Arizona taught me different. Taught me that everything can end in 9 minutes. That 1,000 men can die while you watch. That you can survive and still be gone. I'm 41 years old. Got a wife and kids and a house and a job. Got a future. But I'm also still 20. Still standing on that deck. Still watching the Arizona burn. Still smelling the oil and the smoke and the death. Still hearing that explosion. Still trying to answer that burned kid's question. Where's the Arizona? Where's my ship? She's at the bottom of Pearl Harbor, son. She's been there 11 years and she'll be there forever. And we're there with her. All of us who saw her die. All of us who couldn't save her. We're all still there. We never left.